Our pertinent ordinance sections tonight really fall to Article 3, which regulates our single-family districts, and Article 18, which regulates non-conforming situations. So those are the primary ordinance excerpts. More specifically, we have a section in 18.6A that allows expansion of a non-conforming building under certain circumstances. Now, this is old hat for some of you, I know, but I like to kind of go back through it and make sure that everybody's on the same page, make sure the applicant understands, again, why he's here, and any residents that we may have at home or in the audience understand why we're here. So there are three standards to the test in order to have a permitted nonconforming expansion without a variance. The first is that the building can only be nonconforming on a single side. Mr. Zabara's residence is nonconforming on two sides, so that one's out. Additionally, the nonconforming side has to provide at least 90% of the required setback. In this particular instance, the larger encroachment is the rear yard, and that provides roughly 70% of the required setback, so strike two. And then strike three, in this particular instance, is that the proposal, in other words, the expansion that is being sought, must comply with all dimensional requirements as well. This particular instance, we're dealing with a district that has a 40-foot minimum rear yard setback requirement. The home is currently built at a 28-foot rear yard setback, and Mr. Zabara is seeking to match that existing encroachment with his new garage expansion, which would also provide a 20. Right-hand side of the screen are the 14 standards listed in your ordinance. This is what you're to apply in your test to determine whether or not to grant the variances that are sought. I can go back to these at any point if you need, but I like to at least provide a little bit of a summary. I think we're all familiar with the ordinance at this point. So now we'll take a quick look at the site plan. So this is, in essence, the box that's not hatched in. That is the residence as has been approved, given the variance situation. And if you've had a chance to drive by, or you have driven by naturally as part of your route across the township, you'll notice that it's well under construction. Obviously not finished, but there has been progress since last we saw this residence. Proposal before you tonight is this hatched-in area. I squared it out at about 940 square feet in total. It is intended as a new two-car garage with additional storage space. The existing two-car garage, the proposal is to convert that to living space. So in essence, we have an existing attached garage. He'd like to take that and convert it to usable floor area, so he has a little bit bigger residence, and then would like to attach or build the expansion of a new attached garage, so he has that as well. It is a little bit, I had some good conversations in a meeting in advance of the submittal with Mr. Zabara. So you'll note that for a two-car garage, 32 feet of depth is a little more than technically you would need. In this particular instance, I guess I tried to encourage him to maybe shrink it a little bit. With that being said, his credit, he's trying to at least just match what's already there. And additionally, and I know this isn't, we've had this conversation before, but this residence does not have a basement. And so he did feel as though by expanding the space, it was pretty important. He wanted to make sure he got as much square footage as he could so that he would have storage space. And my hope is that by making this a little bit larger than simply a two-car garage, there's no guarantees and there's nothing that we can do to stop it. But my hope is that we don't have to see Mr. Zabara in front of ZBA again. One way or another, quite frankly. I'm not trying to suggest anything or encourage anything, but I think we're at a point where we're kind of maximizing the potential buildable space on this site while allowing him to kind of meet his own needs for use of the residence as well. So the The two variances are, again, tied to one, the fact that it's not a permitted nonconforming expansion, and two, this rear yard setback, as I mentioned. So this is 28 feet off the rear lot line. It's a 32-foot deep addition, which leaves us on a 100-foot deep lot, leaves us with the 40-foot minimum right up to the minimum front setback. So front setback is met. Side setback is met in terms of the one side minimum plus the combination. The spacing between residences will still easily be met. You can see the home to the west. There's quite an ample buffer between the two, so we don't have any issues there. The building height is well within ordinance allowance of 30 feet to the midpoint. This is a view of it here, so you can see this would be, if you can follow my cursor on the screen, this would be the existing two-car garage that would be refaced to sort of match the east side of the house. And then we have the new garage with the bump out for the added storage space, both to the west and then to the rear, which obviously you can't see from this particular perspective. I covered everything. Floor area and lot coverage are still in compliance. As you'll recall, we have calculations that are based on neighborhood averages, and this home is easily within the size allowances for this particular neighborhood, so nothing jumps out there. So all other dimensional standards are met. We just have the two variance issues to deal with. In this case, compliance won't prevent him from using the property. He's already obtained variances to have the house as it currently sits. That obviously is usable as a permitted use in the district, but as far as getting into the idea of unnecessary burden, which is part of that same test, this is the case, again, where I'll reiterate that he cannot expand any part of this residence without at least one variance. So you certainly, in my opinion, could find that to be burdensome upon the property owner. It's not a typical situation that we find township-wide. I've already mentioned the rear setback would match the existing. We all know that it's adjacent to the golf course. The reality is any potential impacts of the encroachment, quite frankly, are mitigated, in my opinion, by the adjacent use. I might have a different statement and a different opinion about that were there another residence backing up to this particular property, and we were in a position where we were sort of encroaching into the buffer between the two rears of homes, if you will. But it's a more intensive use and obviously ample green space across the property. Granted, it's not his property, but it's certainly there. So I really don't have any issue in terms of potential impacts. And then as far as the lot itself, in terms of our unique circumstances, I already mentioned it's a little bit odd in terms of its configuration. It's too small for the district, it's non-conforming, but it's also a kind of an atypical situation where it's actually wider than it is deep. So what that creates is a relatively shallow lot. A conventional lot on an internal non-corner would be deeper than it is wide, in which case larger front and rear setbacks make a lot of sense. This is a case where the lot being shallow, we have a 100-foot deep lot. Minimum front setbacks 40 feet. Minimum rear setbacks 40 feet. You guys know I'm not great at math, but I think that only leaves 20 feet in terms of a buildable depth without any variance situation. So I do, in my opinion, find that to be certainly something that is supported as a unique circumstance for this particular property in terms of a practical difficulty. In closing, all of the other 14 standards that we have to deal with, I don't foresee any issues. Safety hazards, neighborhood character, I think we're making improvements to this property. If we can rewind to 2012, 2013, when we first saw this property, I think we can agree, we don't have to, but I think we could agree that the property's in a little bit better shape now than it was when Mr. Zabara purchased it. So we have made progress. I don't see any issues in terms of impacts on the neighborhood, be it the adjacent property owners, be it the surrounding neighborhood. Really nothing in terms of the roadway, traffic flow, nuisances, any of the sort. So I think this is one of those rare, dare I say, pretty straightforward cases. It certainly could be debated whether or not the full extent of the rear setback variance is warranted, but as I mentioned, I did think given some of the conditions, it was at least an appropriate request. I didn't believe he was asking for too much. And to that end, I will have one last closing point. We also discussed the option of reducing it, making it a little bit smaller so that we could increase that setback. We wouldn't get to the full 40-foot rear setback, so he was going to need a variance from that anyway. A 20-foot deep garage is a little bit too shallow for a modern garage. And additionally, we did discuss the idea of a detached garage because you get a little bit of flexibility in terms of your setbacks with detached. But two things. One, it would occupy the majority of his usable rear yard. Literally because while we have reduced setbacks, we also have a 10-foot spacing from the residence. So off of this back corner, there is a spot in here. It would have to be a smaller structure. There is a little spot in here that you could have a detached. But again, it would be smaller and it would occupy a decent portion of his rear yard. I never ran the numbers, but your ordinance does not allow detached accessory buildings to exceed 25% of the rear yard space. So it probably would have complied, but it would have been close. So I wanted to put that out there as well. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Happy to take any questions or turn the floor over to the applicant.
You have any questions from the floor here? Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Get the applicant up here. Mr. Zabara? Give us your name and address.
And Zabara, and I live on 10020 Ferry Road.
Okay. Now, what I want you to do is, you've heard Brian, and Brian pretty well laid out what you're doing. But what you got to do is you got to probably give us a good reason why we should accept the changes that you're making at your house.
The house is too small. After I did the addition, I realized it's still like really small. So we found out if we do the double garage we have right now.
You speak in the.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Thank you.
After we did the addition, we found out it's like because we were limited between the garage and the house. After we build the garage, after we build the addition, we found out it's still too small. So we talked about it, and then we said if we turn the old garage into a family room, that will be great. The only problem, we don't have a garage and we don't have a basement, so we don't have any storage or anything. And we really like the area. We don't want to move. So we just want to finish the house in a way that will be comfortable. That's it. That's all.
So as Brian was spelling out, he said you looked at various options, but you're so limited in that on that property that can do only one thing. It sounded like to me it was like one thing is if you wanted the garage, and that was doing what you're doing now, or else make it an accessory in the backyard. That's a possibility. You looked at that, right?
Yeah, it won't. I don't have much in the backyard too, and I'm gonna go to the side anyway, so that's why I want it to be attached to the house. I really don't want it to be not attached.
You speak in the.
I really don't want it to be not attached. I like it to be attached to the house. It's way better. I just want to stay there. I don't want to move anymore. I just wanted the house to be better. That's all.
So this is your last house?
That's my last. Yeah, I don't want to move anymore. I just want to.
That's what you say. Is he right? Okay, so basically what you're doing is you didn't have a large enough living space. You wanted to make the space larger. That meant that you had to use the garage as additional living space.
Exactly.
And build the garage.
Yes. It's small for my family. That's why I wanted to make it a little bit bigger so they will be comfortable in it.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the board?
The addition I did, it's supposed to be a family room. And space-wise, it's very small. Like, after you put it really on the ground, it's really tight. After you put the couches, like, there is nothing in the middle. So I decided to turn it on into entrance, so it'll be nice and big. And then we do the garages, the old garage, a family room. But this way we will be very comfortable with it. These are the neighbors. The neighbors. I showed them what I'm going to do, what I would like to do, and they signed that they were okay with it. They don't have any problem.
You know, you're going to have to speak. Get that microphone up because
I can't move. But
you're not projecting.
These are signature from the neighbors that they are okay with what would I like to do. Oh yeah, they actually they are, all of them. There's 3 houses. Mine is in the middle. You noticed Brian was saying it's the 3rd house. Actually, the 2nd house. The one right next to me, it's a garage. Belonged to the 1st one. And there's
One on Ferry.
the neighbor across the street from me, at Christos, I think his name. Cross street, yes. And then Bill right next to me, and Susan. There is just one thing I would like to. The architect, when he did the, I told him I wanted the garage and that little extra things to match the other side, which is right here. I told him I wanted to match from the front, but he did it in the back too. It will be a little bit difficult for the roof.
What are you saying?
The addition, the new addition I would like to build, there is a little a storage area right here.
Yeah, I see that. I see the bump out. Yeah.
Okay, I told the architect that I would like to match the other side of the house. So in the front, from the front.
Yes.
But he did it from the front and the back. Just by his doing it on the back, we realized after I submit this that it's going to be a little bit difficult for the roof. It's easier in the back to stay straight. If it is okay with it, will be great. If it's not, I can keep it like that.
So what I'm looking at here is you've got a bump out on both sides, on both the east side and the west side, as this shows. So you're saying there's a difficulty now?
Well, he wants it square.
I wanted to square it from the back. It's better for the roof. It's easier for the roof. It
But
goes
that's what I'm saying. So as it's drawn, you want to add, you want to make it square. You want to square it off.
it in the back, but in the front stays the way it is, if it's possible.
Really, that doesn't change anything as far as.
No, but I just want to make sure.
What about square feet? The added square feet, Brian?
I'm just eyeballing it. It's about 6 by 8. If we just fill in the back square, it's about 48 additional square feet. The variances would remain the same. In essence, it's still a 28-foot rear yard setback,
Yeah.
and we're obviously still expanding a non-conforming residence, so it would be slightly bigger. 48 square feet's not going to do it's not going to disrupt anything in this particular case,
Okay.
thankfully.
So you're going to do it. You're just going to have the architect make the changes.
Yes.
Okay. So you'll present that to the building department.
Of course.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Hearing none, can we get a motion for this appeal?
Or
You have support. Any discussion? You know, one thing I forgot to do was I know we don't have an audience, but normally I ask if the audience wants to come up and talk, but so we have no audience, so that we can kind of forego that. But anyway, okay. You want to come up and say anything? No. Okay. You want to support your husband? No.
nice try.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion. We have support. No discussion. So
Quick question for discussion.
Yeah.
Does the motion have to include the change to the diagram we were given to reflect that?
I would say, yeah, we can add that in. Yes.
All amended to say the back.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have an amendment. So we have a second again for the.
Yeah.
Okay.
So done.
Okay. Now we can vote. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Denied? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Appeal number 17002 is approved. So thank you for your.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome. And maybe you're not going to come back, right? Okay, do we have any comments from the board? Anything that we have to? Do we have any anything going on? Nothing. Nothing. Okay, nothing at the last minute. So you know. Okay, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.